everyone, and welcome to All Things Grace Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Majors, and I am super excited about a very serious and heavy topic today. I'm really honored to have a powerhouse in the realm of mental health advocacy, creativity, entertainment, technology, all the things. But before we dive into our conversation, I just wanted to kind of confront a stark reality about our world, right? So one of the stats I pulled, and you can please correct me if this is wrong, but I pulled a stat today that said approximately 47,000 Americans die by suicide each year, right? So that makes it the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. So it's a sobering reminder of the urgent need to have these conversations and provide resources and talk about all of the things surrounding mental health and suicide prevention. So I am super excited to have our guest here today, Gina Cavalier. I could do a whole thing, but I'll just say that you are a true Renaissance woman, honey, wearing many hats and cool glasses as well, but just with grace and purpose, right? So from your endeavors as a mental health advocate, an author, a filmmaker, an artist, a spiritual teacher, all the roles that you play, including host of the Liberated Healer Podcast, you embody a relentless commitment to healing and empowering, especially those who are suffering with this idea and ideations of suicide. So I want to just give you the floor and just welcome.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to have this opportunity and your powerful introduction, and I can feel the energy already moving through. And there's only one word that I wanted to correct in this, is that this subject is serious, but I don't consider it dark. And that's
okay.
I consider it, I'm bringing levity towards it.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that I just try to, because it is serious. But what we're trying to do is normalize the conversations, bring levity towards it. So levity is a good word I like to bring. We're not trained or taught or allowed to speak about mental health, and especially about suicidal ideation. It's I found one of the last remaining taboos that's actually kind of in our environment right now. And there is another stat I'll put out there, is 45% of people who commit suicide in the United States saw their practitioner a month before they did it. So it's a big number. That means that they were in the ability to speak to the person that could help them the most, and they still didn't. And that means that there's a stigma around having these conversations. And the fastest growing age range is 10 to 14.
Oh.
And I get chills when I say that, because that's how important this is. So, again, anybody who is suffering through the ideation of it, I want to, pour out my heart to you and let you know that I get you. I brought this book together because it was about a 15-year journey when I finally decided I'm sick of feeling this way. And I really believe I can change it. It was a long journey, but I believe I can shorten that journey for people down to like a year with active, aware and information. So I asked Dr. Amelia Kelly to join me in writing the first book. And I actually got the Swedenborg Foundation, which is a nonprofit, to publish it. And we created this workbook that anybody can get. And even Swedenborg has told me that they will send out a digital copy if someone can't afford it. It's the reason why I went there.
Can you give us because I realized I didn't introduce the book.
Yeah.
Can you give us the title?
Yes. It's available now on pre-sale on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and a lot of other sites. Surviving Suicidal Ideation, from Therapy to Spirituality and the Lived Experience. So I bring in the spiritual aspects and the lived experience, where I tell my memoiric tale of what led to my suicidal ideation, so people can have some foundation of the trauma that I had in childhood. And, we all have a different journey, and there are different stories, but they're pretty similar. This trauma usually, or some other thing that got us to this place of where we felt unworthy, or we felt like we wanted. Self-harm to me is because you don't love yourself. because when you love yourself, you can't hurt yourself.
Mm.
I thought if I just love everyone else, that that they would love me back, and in that would be the way that I would experience life. And then when I didn't get the love back, and I didn't have any for myself, I would feel depleted, and that I didn't belong, and I would feel disconnected and alone in this world. And that's what I feel a lot of people feel, is this extreme disconnection. And then what happens from there, at least in my case, is then I felt separate from my soul or my spirit or my energy. So if you're sort of not someone who subscribes to the word soul or spirit or anything, if maybe there are atheists out there, things like that's fine. I use the word energy because we know quantum physics, there is energy. So you can look at it either way, but you separate from yourself on another layer where, and then when that happens, you become numb. And when you get there, you move into a different, more serious phase of ideation, because you really can't see, feel, or hear the beautiful things around you anymore. You've cut them off. You can't feel the ocean on your face. You can't hear the music in your soul, your spirit, things like that. And as that starts to continue, now that's when you're actually more in a dangerous situation. We outline the phases in the book. There's 5 phases that we've been able to identify as, kind of thinking more, and then on to where you're getting into action. So we added a lot of, techniques to kind of bring you back into your space. Through the, Dr. Amelia Kelly talks about therapies, maybe why, different things you can use, or maybe why you're stuck in a trauma, some myths and taboos and different things like that. And I talk about some of my foundational things that I've curated, certain meditations that I feel like are really important, just to connect with that energy, just to bring you back down to earth, to reconnect you again, to learn how to self-love yourself. Because once you love yourself, there's always going to be obstacles. There's always going to be conflict in our life. We're not teaching people how to deal with the conflict and the obstacles. So we take it so personally, and then we beat ourselves up. The thing is that conflict never goes away. It never goes away. And so if you're already in a depressed state, and then you lost your job on top of it, your partner wants a divorce, you lost an animal, you get an illness that's very devastating, you start to add it on top of it, and that's when you just say, God, I can't take it no more. The thing is that once you love yourself, as the primary switch, at least for me, those obstacles, I just deal with them differently now, because I'm dealing with them. I'm not seeing them as oh my gosh, something else has happened to me again. Oh my gosh, I can't take one more thing. I can't take losing one more friend or person. I look at it differently. I look at it with my self-love first, and what's the lesson here, and how can I move through it in a way that's kind to myself? Do I have to go into those old things and just put all the responsibility on myself? And what I've found is, as I fell in love with myself, my path started to open.
That's right.
And the people around me, I even got more compassionate. I didn't even think I could be more compassionate to other people, but I really did. I learned how to see people. I learned to judge people less. Because you can't help it. You're like, why am I such a good person? And I'm doing all these good things. Why are they getting the best things in life? Why did they get that family I wanted? Why do they get, and there's this comparative energy, right?
Yeah.
And it's not good. And it's, and so moving through those kind of things, they start to fall away naturally. And then you really start to see every single person as an equal soul, or an equal unit in this world that deserves the same. And that's why the diversity and equity actually does come in. People have asked me a lot about this, about diversity and equity. When you are a grounded person and you love yourself, you're not going to be mean to someone who doesn't represent you. You're going to find that really interesting and beautiful, and you don't have time or the effort to put in judgment of others, because you've healed your pain and you don't want others to feel pain, regardless of who they are, what station in life they're at, what level of a job they are in. Yeah.
Mhm. You said a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, you said a lot. And so I want to go back a minute because I'm always curious about what that moment was like. Was there an aha moment for you that said, oh, this is going to be my ministry. This is where I'm going to serve. This is where I'm going to give my heart and soul to. Was there a moment? Was it an evolution? Can you talk about that aha moment?
So I found when you really dedicate yourself to a purpose, which my purpose was healing myself. And that's why my whole, I was like, I'm just healing myself. And I did everything I could. I did all these different techniques. I went to all these different places, and I was on a mission.
Mhm.
Once I finally got to that plateau where I guess I could say I felt like I had climbed the mountain. I was on the top of the mountain. I was feeling great. I accidentally overdosed on CBD, which I didn't know you could do, but it was vanilla flavored, and I took way too much, right? And you can actually, I took like way too much. And so I'm in bed and I'm very sensitive, so I don't take anything normally. And I'm just starting to like float and I'm out of my body. And then I'm like, what the hey? And then all of a sudden, like my whole room filled with light.
Mm,
And I got this energy that came in that said, you're going to become a teacher and you're
mm,
going to teach people how to heal themselves through your techniques. And I was like, what? No, I'm finally happy. I don't need that
yeah,
responsibility.
yeah, yeah,
Like taking that on was a huge responsibility for me because I don't want to mess up. I don't want to say the wrong thing.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, moving from student to teacher is a big shift, big. So, but I was just okay. And they brought the name the Liberated Healer. They,
Mm,
the energy, I did the website that I didn't go to bed that night. I wrote the whole mission statement. I was so high on this light that had infused my body. And I just woke up and just sitting in bed in the same position. And I sent an email to all of my people and said, meditation starting Monday, just boom. It was instant. I just knew what I needed to do. And people showed up the very day, and it never
mhm,
stopped. And what happened is, things would just open up and then I'd be like, oh, I like that. No, I don't like that. And would just ebb and flow until I started to realize that I needed to do a niche focus on the suicidal ideation because I started really seeing the numbers and people suffering.
mhm,
um and the fear of the stigma on it, and I was like, no, I can really I can hold these people. I've been there, and
mhm,
I can't even hold a suicidal thought. It's like it's been programmed out of me. And
mhm,
even if I try to be mean to myself, I start to giggle. I just
mm,
go like, that's not you anymore, girl. Like it's almost like that
yeah,
person is gone. And
mhm,
I do a lot of research, and I listen to brain doctors and they say you can reprogram your brain.
mhm,
Absolutely. So I feel like there's science that backs up even what I've been able to achieve. And the big thing is I want people to know suicidal ideation, you don't have to live with it the rest of your life. And that's something I didn't know because it was so much a part of me. I didn't think it was ever not going to be a part of me.
mhm,
It's like your hair color, or like I'm never going to be taller than 5'5", right? So I'm not. So I kind of almost felt like suicidal ideation was just a part of my life that I had to accept.
mhm,
And didn't. And I didn't know that. And I want other people who are suffering to know that they don't have to, that I'm proven that you don't have to. And there is processes, it's practice, it's commitment. You have to practice it. It has to go into your number one goal. It has to be your number one priority. And I believe that as a society, we used to have these kind of practices came before anything else.
mm.
Over the last 200 years, it kind of, if you start to see it, it's kind of correlate when like the trains came in and the oil production and money started flowing.
Industrial, yes.
When And
Yeah.
then that's also when discrimination was like, the Chinese worked on the trains and the rich people, and like we had
Mm-hmm.
all separation. When
Mm-hmm.
money came in big numbers like that, that's when we went away from our spirit, in front of our ritual, and away from our tribe.
Mm-hmm.
And as we've become more modern, this is a fact, we become more depressed. As
Mm-hmm.
we've gotten more medicine, we're more depressed.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to go back, thank you for all the medication. We're good,
Thanks for the
not saying
trains.
some people need it, but
Yeah.
there's other things too
Yeah.
that can help.
It seems so. There was this really weird analogy or metaphor that people used to use, and don't ask me why they did this one because it's just kind of creepy. But it was, this the analogy of babies falling over the river, a waterfall, and somebody, you're looking around and you're at the bottom, and all of a sudden you see a baby fall from the waterfall, and you're like, whoa, what is this? What is this? And you look up and you see him coming over the cliff. So one person's down there trying to catch him, another person goes to the top of the cliff to try to stop him. But then there's
Okay.
somebody before going, where are these babies coming from? Like,
Okay.
where is this? You're right. And what I hear is that your attempt is to kind of go to the origins and figure out, where is this coming from? What is it that kind of triggers this response that we have, and begin these ideations that I would rather not be here. And the thing about suicide that is, it gets me is that I can't imagine how far in, where you have to be to have to, and in some cases, you have a people that lives will be decimated if you did it, but you can't even see that far. You can't see past this despair. And so whatever that feeling is that has you weigh out what you're getting ready to create in a, not one or two, usually it's usually a lot of people's lives. And you're just like, I can't do it. I can't prioritize that in where I am right now.
Yeah.
So can you say a little bit about, where do you think that the social media is not helping? Because you talked about comparison energy, but the numbers are growing. And where do you think we're failing? I know there's self-love and I know there's self-care. I heard you say that. But where do you think collectively as society we're failing, especially 10 to 14-year-olds, um, in this conversation?
Well, I'm also a channel guide. So just so you know, I've been told that in the future, we are going to be away from our screens a lot more, that the mental health advocates of this day are actually going to do a really good job at figuring out a way to help people. That's the information that I was giving. And there's probably going to be another thing that locks us down, and in one way or another. And in that next lockdown, we're never going to want to be stuck to screens constantly anymore, that there's going to be a great shift. But these mental health conversations are just absolutely dire.
Mhm.
Sorry, that just came through really quickly, so I transmuted into that. I'll go back to the social media for a second, because so I look at everything as energy. And we've been kind of, when you're looking at social media, right, and you start to form an identity about who you are, what you believe in, and what you want to stand for. So, and that's good, because that's where we make change, right? You're passionate about diversity. That's your focus. We need you to do that. I'm passionate about this. We need to do that. And that's fine. But when a lot of people who really haven't found their thing, or something that they're really passionate in, or their path in life, or they're not grounded and they haven't done some of this work. I'm not talking about people who are suicide. I'm just talking people in general. They feel like they have to become a keyboard warrior type thing. And I use that because it just kind of gives you the visual, but they have to completely speak their mind, no matter who it is. And they have to dump on that person if they don't align with them 100%. That one thing that we are doing across all the time is absolutely breaking our families and our kids, and it's hurting everybody. And I implore people to, when you have to write that email that's going to bash somebody,
Mhm.
make sure that you can stand behind that 100%. Like, if that really is in your heart,
Mhm.
Like that's your thing, and you're going to stand by it like on a pedestal and like, yes, I have to say that, then that's fine. But there's 99% of the time you could have let it go, right?
Mhm.
So I'm not
Mhm.
saying it's not good for, you're going to have to do it once in a while because you have something you're really passionate about, but there's so many times you didn't need to say it.
Yeah.
And you don't know who's on the other end. And if that one comment pushed them over the edge, and do you want to be that person that one comment pushed them over the edge, especially with our kids, especially with bullying? And if we're as adults doing it to other adults, what do you think our kids are learning? And
Yeah.
that's why I do my voice starts to change, because we are responsible for those 10 to 14-year-olds that are suffering through suicidal ideation. The
Mhm.
adults are. I'm sorry. You have to take responsibility for that, because
Yeah.
that wasn't 100 years ago. You never would see that, you know? So it does poison the well. So
Mhm.
especially as this election is coming in, we have so many divided things. I'm not saying don't have your opinions, but like, is there a way that you can 99% of the time not have to respond?
Yeah.
Just proceed in the way as you would, proceed through your day as you would, maybe have those private conversations in your friends and family around the table that you need to express. But
Mm.
online, it lives forever. Online is a cesspool of negativity and hate. And
Yeah.
if we start to each do it a little bit, we'll start to see it lighten up. And we'll
Mhm.
start to see our community lighten up. And we start to, that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to go back to that analogy that I gave and talk a bit about the loved ones of the babies that we didn't catch,
Mm-hmm.
and the what they are going through. And you know, I know that we talk about ideation, and we're talking about ideation, and we're talking about the world we live in that kind of breeds these kind of this this phenomenon. But the people that are left behind are so left with the question, what could I have done differently? And the guilt. Do you ever speak or connect with those folks? Do you have resources for those folks? And what does that look like? Because somebody's listening to this and we're talking about something and what I'm sure feel very technical terms, right? Ideation and all, but this person is left with a hole. And man, someone said the other day, grief. Oh, yeah, Regina King about her son. Grief is love with nowhere to go, with intense love with nowhere to go, right? And so, what do we say to them, and what kind of support is there for them to continue to move forward and go on?
Two things come to mind. The first thing is to know that it's not their fault.
Mm,
They have to know it's not their fault. They have to know that the timelines and the steps and every single thing, if you're going back into the past constantly, that um that it's not your fault. You can't be taking on that accountability and responsibility. The other thing is that grief requires a witness. And what I mean by that is that grief counseling is go right into grief counseling 100%, into a group 100%. Even if you can't do that, there's a lot of great books on audio tape. I interviewed a lady named Susan Anderson. It's her whole business for her whole life in 40 years is grief counseling. And she's got a bunch of books on audio. And I was going through something last year that was really painful. And I fall asleep to her tapes, crying. And she outlines the different stages of grief, which I felt it was very helpful for me because my mind likes to intellectualize what's happening to me.
mhm,
And it helps me say, okay, I'm in this stage right now. It's not forever,
mhm,
you know? And I might go into the next stage, but I might go back and I might go back. Yeah, I might do 2 steps forward, 4 steps back. But for some reason, as I understood the stages, it really helped me really realize that eventually I would get to a stage where there would be more peace in my heart. But I can't stress enough the counseling, whatever that is, the books, the audio books, 100%. You need to have, grief needs a witness.
Yeah.
So when you talk about it, it's great. When you have support, it's great. This really, it helps those people that can all experience it together. It's sort of like, that's what I am. I'm coming to people and saying that have suicidal ideation who don't believe that they could ever heal it. I'm saying to them, you can, that's my group, and if you've lost someone, you need to go to a group that also have lost people, because you guys speak a new language that I couldn't even speak,
Right.
because I actually haven't lost someone. So you need to, grief needs a witness. And I think it's right away, if you can go into that, absolutely. Even if you just lost a person without suicide, I see a lot of people suffering long term because they lost a parent or they lost something, a person. I keep telling them, like, go into a grief counseling, because instead of leaning to maybe alcohol or drugs, or they really do, I watch them and I'm like, please just try a little of grief. You don't, maybe you're not a counselor if you don't want to talk to anybody, but a group, it's like, it really, getting that off your chest really does help. And there is massive spiritual implications that I teach, a little bit farther down the line, but there is, and it's all beautiful. It's all love. It's so much love.
Yeah. I want to lift up and take a moment to say, now, I know as a Black woman, Black folks are not conditioned to seek help like this. It is such a taboo. It is such a no, 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 no. Like, I'm good. It is it is an admission that you are weak and that you couldn't handle it. It is an admission, or you didn't pray enough on it because you didn't, like, all of these different things that we make up to justify not getting the help from an outsider. So we, let's just pray on it. God can heal everything. And yeah, I believe that there is healing. But if you don't, but God also sends people and angels to help you facilitate that healing. And um, we do not take advantage of that. One of the things a friend and I were not laughing, but talking about the other day, of the irony of, nobody wants to take antidepressants and all of that. And I'm like, get your help to get your mind right. If that's what you have to do, do it. But nobody has a problem taking meds for weight loss or injections in my face to look younger, but like, oh, there's a stigma around mental health care. And so I just want to say, if you are a Black person, in particular Black women who tend to, I'm a strong Black woman, that Black girl magic thing is not magic. You're wearing yourself out. That's how you're producing. You're not caring for yourself in the ways that you should. And that's a whole other show. But I want to say to listen to what Gina is saying, get the support. Do not be ashamed. There are some things that is a Goliath in your life and it is too big. And the minute you submit to a power that can, and not just, I'm not talking about God-like power. I'm talking about the power for people who are outside of you, who have done this before, who can help you walk through your grief. Please do it. Please do
Yeah.
it. Don't this is not the time. Get
No.
the help.
And
Yeah.
unfortunately, men are the highest number. So men are 80% of suicides because they're taught to speak less than even women. So that they have such, it's all stuck in their body. And I look at it as energy kind of, and also people have free will. So even if you do pray and you have angels come in, there's only so much they can do. They sit on your shoulder and they hold you, but you have free will.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, you have, that's why I created this, because, a lot of, like, say, people that do healings or spiritual teachings, they'll go in and they'll do like energy work on someone, like in Reiki and things like that, which I'm not putting down or anything like that. but I didn't find that as helpful because I didn't know what they were doing. And I wanted to learn, how do I get calm? So I want to teach people what I do to calm myself down. Like these are actual tools. I have meditation one on my website. It's an actual tool. It's 3 hours going into the 5 things that I do the minute I wake up, and it's almost like a toolkit. You have to think of yourself. I look at it as like a treasure chest or a toolkit. And I'm like, I'm going to pull out this and I'm going to pull out that. And for me, that looks like grounding. It's, number one thing I do all the time, everything. I help my friends with it. I ground everything. I ground my animals. I ground my house. I ground my car. Because we've lost, that is a part of the thing that we've lost as we become more modern. And the grounding is, I use this analogy all the time because 90% of people are visual, right? So, when you build a house and you're putting electricity in the house, right? The guy is putting in the wires. The first thing he does is add a grounding cord to the earth. Because without that grounding cord, the whole house would be like, so people are like that now, right? This is your energy. So the grounding cord grounds it calms it down. And now when it's calmer, you can move it around. You can bring in the pinks with the laughter. Ha, ha, ha. Fake it till you make it. Ha, ha, ha. I use that with my clients the other day. It's like we laugh and they're depressed and they're sad and like, ha, 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 ha. And we finally get to where we're laughing, because laughing is one of the highest vibrations that you can have. And it will break darkness. But when you're in darkness, it's really hard to laugh. So you have to fake it till you make it with ha, ha, ha. And there's tools because you're the only one that's with you 24/7.
That's right.
So even if you do get therapy, even if you do all this stuff, which is great, there's a whole ecosystem, right? You got to have tools that in that middle of the night at 3:00 in the morning, when you're having a panic attack, you don't want to wake anybody up. You don't want, you don't want to freak people out. What do? You have to have tools. Is it putting on music? Is it grounding? Is it meditating? Is it taking a bath? Is it dancing? What are those tools that work for? Is it just having a boxing machine right there and you got to get that anger out? Like, what is it? But you have to put healing in your own hands. You have to. There's not a pill or a person that can help you if you do not commit to healing yourself.
Absolutely. And I love that, the power of the mind. Oh my goodness. Like, we do not use our mind to for healing or for creation. We use our mind so much for reaction and survival that we're not thinking how to create. My sister, that I went to had to go see a client a few weeks ago, and my sister had a nervous, like, like about me being in flight. And she just said, ooh, and it frightened her. And so when I touched down, she's the first person, hey, I touched down safely because I know her. And she says, oh, I know you did, because I started panicking and I wrapped your whole plane in pink bubbles and you were fine. I was fine, right? For her, that took her out of her head, and she felt it as that was the most that she could do, is visualize, because she couldn't change the flight, she couldn't change anything, but what she could do was soothe herself by protecting me with these pink bubbles wrapped around bubble.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah.
And she created her own tool.
That's right.
Which is, I'll teach my tools and they're like, oh, I don't really like that, I want to tweak it a bit. That's great. Tweak it to yourself. Tweak it as much as you want. And that's what I love about kind of the new, what's coming in now is, the old ways, like, you got to do this, you got to sit there perfectly for 30 minutes. It's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. And that overwhelms people on top of it. I don't have 20 minutes to sit perfectly, like an angel. And that overwhelms them. You know what I mean? I just need to change what I'm right now. I'll lay in bed like half one eye open and I start having a panic attack. And I'm like, I'm going to ground, put my grounding cord on. I'm hooking myself up. I'm surrounding myself on, I do my thing that I teach. I do it right away. Or as soon as I start feeling the bubbles and the panic attack coming, I just go right into it. And And, I even do it to others though. And that's where it starts to get beautiful because, for example, like I was at a pharmacy and, these pharmacists get yelled at all the time. They get abused because something's wrong. And this one lady was just going off on the pharmacist and, she was all over the place. And you can't do anything, right? But I just sat there and I grounded her. I gave her a grounding cord, sent her to the center of the earth. I've released all her anger and tension. I imagined her hooking her up to source, and I surrounded her on this light. And I'm just sitting there like this, and I'm not even kidding you. All of a sudden, she just started going like this, and like, I'm sorry, I'm just having a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
And so the tools really help you at first, but then that's when you really start to feel like you're like a superhuman, or you've got the superhero power, because it's like you really can help those around you just a little bit, and you just get kinder. Get kinder with everything and everyone. The compassion goes off the charts.
Mm-hmm. Well,
There's another.
Oh, go ahead.
I had one other quick tool that I wanted to share with someone. Another thing that you can do is you can create like a second self that's like your best friend. And I do this all the time. And so this best friend kind of, and also this best friend can be you as a youth sometimes, if you're working through a trauma, like I had to work through a childhood trauma. And and this isn't a lot of the grief books that you will hear or read about, but I would go and if I started getting triggered by an old trauma, I would see myself as that young girl. I would hold myself, I would hug myself. But even what I do now is if a trigger is coming in an old pattern, like something really scary is coming, that old self will be like, no, Gina, don't go down today. No, Gina. It really does. And it's almost, I almost feel like it's separate now. Like a part of my brain is like my best friend and always has my back. They will say, no, that wasn't your fault. Don't take that energy on. That's their thing, not your thing. And it's really, and I go, oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. It's so interesting, but it helps me I'm in control of all my thoughts and all my emotions is, like 99%. There's times that I lose it, of course, on here and there, but these are just tools like that you can have all the time.
Yeah. Speaking of tools, you have an app. Can you talk a little bit about the app?
I'm raising the money for the app. So, I have the whole business plan. I do need to raise about $3 million. It's a mental health app, and there's programs going. So I am working with angel investors and stuff, trying to get it ready. But the one idea that I think is the most important is that there's going to be a widget that's like sort of you can just hit it anytime you're feeling funky, and your safety contract comes up, your letter to yourself comes up, the things that you love here comes up.
Come on.
Like music, and it's just like a widget, because when you are depressed, the last thing you want to do is go on the internet. I need help. I mean, we have 988, but there's things with 988, right? And it's also a part of the government, and it's, has its things and stuff like that. This is a widget. You have your plan. It's something that you can control and feel safe, your own. Because I've researched a lot of people that have helped get out of suicidal ideation. They write a letter to themselves. So, dear me, please don't, I love you. You know what I mean? So you can have that. You have a picture of your animals or your kids. Like this little thing will just pop up. Like it's like all for you. It's your little safety thing. So
brilliant idea. I love that idea.
Yeah. And in the actual app, you can get healings and work with other therapists and practitioners. And the cool thing about it though is that you can get tokens from big brands like Target or Walmart, and they can sponsor your healing.
Oh, come on.
So they can donate like $1,000 to this therapist, that therapist can give out to free tokens to people that need healings. Or a healer like me, they can give me like $1,000 where I could do like 6 or 7 healings with that $1,000. I could give them away. But the people with the money, they want to help too. I mean, they have big budgets. What can they do other than putting on YouTube ads and billboards or whatever? This is a way where they can connect with their
So good.
customers and offer healing.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's like, don't tell everybody. It's like, you can't trademark that. I'm like, if someone wants it and the universe needs it, I can create all day long. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
just, we need to bring the people with the money together with compassion
mm,
to help the people that are the people buying their products,
that's right. That's right.
you know?
Wow. Well, I'm just gonna add, please have that's great. They have pictures and they have whatever, but it'd be so great to have a video of people, their loved ones, when they hit it up and it's like, look, we
Oh,
love you. We love you. We love like a video. Come on, of your kid.
oh my gosh.
When you said pictures of your kids, I'm thinking a video
Oh,
where
you just
they could,
nailed it. I wrote it
yeah,
down.
yes, please. That's my only request. And I'm just saying, anybody else, back off. This is sacred space. You're the carrier for this vision. I just don't even worry about all that other stuff. I'm just declaring everybody part, the C's part, people give you your money. This has to happen like right yesterday. This
Yeah.
is
I mean,
amazing.
Biden just did like $1 billion, but what's happening is they still go to the bigger companies that are
Mhm.
paying big salaries, and it doesn't roll down into the people that need it right away for years and years and years and years. And then there's a lot of red tape, and it's like I'm just tired of it, so I'm just building it myself. I also built Suicidal Ideation Anonymous, which is a nonprofit that I'm looking for grants right now, and it's going to be just like AA but only online. But when you go to a meeting, you can just turn off your camera and not put your name, and you can just, we'll have people talking about healing or people sharing their stories. Because back in the 50s when AA was created, it was really a stigma to be an alcoholic. So
Mhm.
they needed it to be anonymous, and they still kind of do, but not as much as people
No.
are. It's better to be, now it's like it's more taboo to be heavy and fat than it is to be an alcoholic. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
But
Yep.
think about
That's real.
suicidal ideation. It's the number one most taboo. It should be anonymous. It needs to be
Mm.
anonymous. It needs to be confidential.
Oh,
It,
that's so good. That's
yeah,
so, man, this is why I love these conversations, because it is something that's stigmatized. It is something that's anonymous and that people don't talk about. And now here we know, 45 minutes ago, I had no idea about this. I knew what ideation was, but I didn't know the world of it like I know now. And a lot of people will too. And I think it's important for anyone, look, I live in Washington State. Do you know how many billionaires, how many tech people in here in Seattle? Like, this is important that we needed funding. So we got to get this thing funded. This is amazing and important work. So I just want to lock arms with you on that vision, and also, call to those collectively when two people come together. What is it? When two people come together, right, and agree. I stand in complete support of this in any and every way, spiritual, psychological, social, emotional, all the things. Um,
I'll take it. Oh wow, you are powerful. Ooh,
It's coming. It's coming.
I
And I
can
want you to
feel it. Oh gosh, your
hang back, because
energy.
I have a
Woo!
couple thoughts too. So I want to hang back that I can't say on air, but I just a
Okay,
couple thoughts of some possibilities. So but thank you. Thank you
thank
for
you.
all that you're doing, and
Yes,
the
and
levity. Like, I'm not heavy and filled with tightness in my body, and we've been talking about this for, close to an hour. So thank you for
mhm,
being a blessing. I have one question that I'm now this in this season, I'm asking a new question that I ask everyone
okay.
on a scale from 1 to 10. One is, speaking of ideation, I think I want a do-over for this life. This is not how I want it. 10 is, I cannot imagine a more amazing and fulfilled and joyful and blissful life. On a scale from 1 to 10, where would you put yourself? And if it's not a 10, do you know what it would take to get it to a 10?
It's the absolute 10. My whole heart. I mean, I feel like crying just this moment. I have found I love myself.
Yeah.
Can't think one. even when I do a little mistake, I used to be so hard on myself. When I worked in the studios, and I would accidentally send an email somewhere and I, would get in trouble, and I would just like that. Why did you do that? You're so dumb. Or how come you weren't paying attention? And a lot of us are traumatized little beings, and we just need to love ourselves so much, and then and it's like a drop in the ocean, and then everything around us heals, the people around us heal, and we just have so much love. And I see colors differently now. Everything I look in the sky and I see like a bird. I connect with every living thing so much more. And every life wants to live. The number one goal any life has, a flower, a tree, is to live. So we actually have that programmed in us. Where did we unprogram that? That's the question. That's the question, is like, how did that happen? And that's what I feel like as a collective, we're going to change. And I see it's going to be completely different in the next couple of years. We're going to see those numbers go down. I promise you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I stand in agreement on that vision. So thank you so much for sharing. And for sharing yourself and your vulnerability and your love and the care that you bring to your words and to your work. And we'll be talking more soon.
Okay, thank you.
Be well.
Hey everyone, this is Dr. Michelle Majors, and I hope you enjoyed what you heard today. If you did, please hit the small bell to turn on your notifications and become a subscriber.